Hi, and welcome to Protect What Matters and Stay Compliant. Today, we'll learn about how partners use confidential computing to help customers increase data privacy and security surrounding business and consumer data by protecting data in use. I'd like to introduce you to Pierre Chalet, Head of Business Development at Decentric, and Valentina Ranghetti, Finance Enterprise Partner at Roche, to share how Decentric's data cleanroom platform has allowed customers to easily utilize the power of Azure Confidential Computing and Intel SGX. Valentina, why don't you take it away?
Why are we here today? Clearly, there is a natural movement that is happening looking at data technologies and parties' interest in that field. From pharma perspective, Roche is certainly committed to working on that need and try to create meaningful data, working with advanced analytics and from multiple sources, and working for rapid scientific progress. We are talking about data collaboration and how we could move to the next level with that. I would say from personal perspective, there are a few points that should be mentioned. First of all, it's something new. The market and pharma market needs to get used to this and needs to build up experience, use case. Second, we need the right framework for that. We want to be committed as trusted partner for patients and society. So we need the right framework to work within. And third, it's a wave coming. We also need to build up internally expertise and try to figure out how we can best face this change. And now I would hand over to Pierre from Decentric that will show us some possible overcome to some of the challenges that I just showed to you.
Well, thank you, Valentina, for setting up the stage. So my name is Pierre. I lead the business development team at Decentric, and it's going to be a pleasure to now tell you how clean rooms can address the problems that you just mentioned, Valentina. But before jumping into this, let me say 2 words about Decentric. So Decentric is an enterprise SaaS platform. We are headquartered in Switzerland, and we basically offer what we call data clean rooms powered by confidential computing. So now let me put up a slide and explain you what is a clean room. So as you see here on the screen, the concept of a clean room is actually pretty simple. It's the idea of how can multiple organizations with respective sensitive data can work together while maintaining the privacy of their respective data. That's the concept. How does it work? Well, on the left side, you have one or multiple data owners. So those could be hospitals. On the right side, you have one or even multiple data analysts, typically a research center, a life sciences company like Roche. And those 3 parties need to collaborate, but they want the guarantees that at no point in time their data will be seen by any of the participants of the collaboration. So that's basically what a clean room offers. So the clean room is in the middle, you see the screenshot, is this secure environment where the collaboration can happen, where the data can be combined between those federated sources and run computation to extract anonymous insights. So the first core principle is the privacy by design. So again, Decentric leverages confidential computing, so namely Azure Confidential Computing, and from a hardware perspective, we use Intel SGX. Because of the combination of those 2 elements, we can guarantee, especially to the data owners on the left side, that no one will at any point in time access their data, for one. Second, Decentric, as the data clean room provider, cannot access their data either. And third, even Azure, as the cloud provider, cannot access the data. And all those 3 participants or parties cannot access the data, and this can be proven thanks to confidential computing. So that's a very strong guarantee that clean rooms provide. Second is this makes collaboration more compliant. So we, Decentric, have now the experience of working with multiple jurisdiction and data protection agencies. We've been actually approved, our technology has been approved for the processing of patient data and even Swiss banking customer data, especially in Europe where GDPR and other regulations are very strict. And the third component that I want to mention is the flexibility and the scalability of those environments. So when working on a clean room, or with a clean room, as a user, especially as a data analyst in this case, you don't need to make a compromise between securing the data and running very powerful workloads. So a clean room offers from simple SQL queries all the way to very powerful and advanced machine learning models that can be trained using R and Python inside those clean rooms. Very large spectrum, scalable. It's a cloud-based technology. So yeah, those are the three main, I would say, guarantees and features of a clean room. But again, the concept is fairly simple, and taking a step back, I like to explain it in simple words. Using a clean room, it's like sharing without sharing, because technically as a data owner on the left side, you are no longer sharing any data and losing control. You are only sharing insights, so the results of certain computation to external parties, but no longer the actual data itself. So now, with that said, I hope it's clearer, and I want to pass it back over to you, Valentina, so you can share your vision and your views on where this technology can go and unlock lots of value for the healthcare and life sciences industry.
Thank you, Pierre, for showing us the potential of the centric and data clean room. From my side, I can say that I can clearly see opportunities. First of all, this new technology enables us to do things that we couldn't have done before. And also on the other side, to do it on the right time. So it means that we do not have to invest months to go into this direction, but we can have really fast way. And then this could open also doors, because we can collaborate on a different level and being perceived as a partner with our stakeholders. Not only talking about hospital, the major stakeholders we have, but also looking at the broader value chain, like health insurances and others. So I think this is really a good open door to other type of collaboration. We are definitely excited about the premises and the promises of the new technology. And we see interesting opportunities for all the parties. Certainly, we need to build up experience, use case, and to put our hands on that. But we can for sure envision that the partnership around pharma sector will leverage synergies more and more between science and technology.
Thank you, Pierre and Valentina. Confidential computing can be a game changer. And as you just heard, this couldn't have happened without the powerful combination of Intel SGX and Azure Confidential Computing. Now, I'd like to introduce our second partner, Enclave, to share how they provide a WordPress implementation for cookieless web pages. Here is Sebastian Gajek, Chief Technology Officer, to tell you more.
Thanks, Mike. And hi, everybody. I'm Sebastian, the CTO of Enclave. And today I'm going to talk about how confidential cloud computing may enable cookieless e-commerce. So, what can you expect within the next couple of minutes? I'm going to shortly introduce what we do at Enclave, then introduce confidential compute containers, a technology that we at Enclave develop. I'm going to explain how it works, how it can help you, and then dive straight into a very concrete use case, namely WordPress. And finally, I'm going to close the presentation with giving a demonstration where we showcase an enclaved version of WordPress using Intel SGX technology. What does Enclave actually do? We help businesses to take advantage of the confidential cloud computing paradigm. We help them to deploy multi-applications anywhere with the confidence and ease of a private data center. And the way we do it is by delivering confidential compute container technology. Meaning, with those containers, one can effectively turn any cloud into a confidential one. And this way, give customer data the safest place one can think about it. And of course, by turning into a public cloud, one can leverage all the advantages that a public cloud offers, namely to save costs, to also reduce expenses on security, compliance, and governance. What are confidential cloud containers? So you can think of these are standard Kubernetes, Docker compatible containers that by definition enable the confidential compute superpower. This power means that at any moment in time, whatever is in this container is confidential. At any moment in time, all data within this container is fully memory encrypted. And the second superpower is that our confidential containers can be remotely verified, which means that clients can always check whether their data is really running in a confidential container, and this way have a better proof that their data is not leaking any sensitive information. Enclave already offers a large portfolio of confidential computer-ready containers. This way, we believe we can help engineers, developers to much faster turn their applications into confidential applications. Our focus is on enclaving off-the-shelf microservices, for example, like web servers, like databases, because those are the basic tools in order to develop cloud applications these days. As mentioned before, confidential cloud containers are like standard container technology, and this way allow for frictionless deployment with standard DevOps practice. They are compatible with Docker, Docker Swarm, or Kubernetes, with the difference that they are based on Intel SGX technology, which means that we're using Intel SGX technology in order to enclave the applications running in a container. And this has a lot of interesting benefits for businesses. Namely, they don't need any extra manpower, any extra knowledge. They just can leverage enclaved applications, turn their cloud into a confidential cloud without bothering how it works, because the containers will be deployed in a way that non-enclaved containers are. What does it mean for our business to use confidential containers? So with those containers, they can effectively turn their cloud into a confidential one and reach a total different level of end-to-end security. While before their cloud was able to realize data in motion or data in rest, now we're able to also strive for data in use, meaning that end-to-end security has now the true meaning. At any moment in time, no data in the cloud is leaked, this way making it the safest place for customer data we can imagine. To sum up, let us compare the difference between standard container technology and confidential containers as provided by Enclave. Standard containers have been designed for data in rest, data in motion, but confidential containers go far beyond that. As mentioned before, we can now realize data in use applications. We can improve the data sovereignty, which is also in a lot of situations a very crucial feature. We can literally turn a cloud into a zero trust cloud and help with the power of remote attestation to remotely audit these clouds or the applications running in the container. And this way, through cryptographic protocols, ease a lot of compliance and governance issues. But enough said, let's dive in a very concrete case study. Let's dive into WordPress running in confidential containers, and this way leveraging features that confidential cloud computing offers. And based on this case studies, let's try to understand what is the true merit of using confidential cloud compute. WordPress is the leading content management platform. Content management platforms are very popular for implementing websites, e-shops, and learning systems. And among them, WordPress has still one of the largest communities. WordPress, on the other hand, despite its popularity, faces some significant challenges. It's mostly used for e-commerce, and e-commerce deals with customer data, and customer data is always an interesting target to attack. That's why one can hear a lot about exploits, attacking databases, leaking customer data. And this is in particular a huge liability challenge because data breaches are penalized depending on what country the merchant hosts the site. And we designed a confidential compute version of WordPress, which is now available on Azure Marketplace, which leverages the confidential compute paradigm in order to increase the security by simply making sure that all customer data is encrypted at any moment in time. Moreover, since those encryption technologies allow to isolate those applications from the rest of the system, they are also ideal to attain the customer's data sovereignty by design. What is often used in context of content management systems is also a tool for web traffic analysis, simply because those tools allow to figure out where are the customers coming from, what are they interested in buying, and with those tools one is able to run data-driven insights on customers. In order to do so, one has to store and process personal data. And personal data typically asks, depending on the regulations of the country, asks the user to consent, that he agrees that those data may be processed and stored. And the way it's typically handled is that one asks the user to accept the so-called cookie banner. But studies have shown that 76% of the users these days simply click away a banner, what also means that the analytics simply don't get enough data in order to get the insights which are necessary. And this has devastating consequences, namely marketing expenses, for example, are much higher simply because one don't get to see the true insights from the analytics in order to identify what are the customer segments one needs to target. We have developed an anonymization service called SGX, which allows to, on the one hand, anonymize the customer data, for example, like the IP addresses, which are considered personal data, process on those IP addresses, but without leaking them in clear text. And this way, one is able to feed web analytics tools and frameworks with data which is by definition compliant with existing regulations. And the good news is that if one uses web analytics tools which are by design compliant with regulations, one does not need to ask the user for consent anymore, which on the other hand allow to get rid of the cookie banner for asking consent. On this illustration, for example, we can see how confidential compute helps to enable cookieless e-commerce. Literally, all one needs to do is to put existing services into confidential containers, and by definition, all the data from the user can be analyzed in a fully encrypted and fully anonymized way without leaking personal data, but still giving the merchant the ability to analyze the important insights in order to improve his products, his sales and marketing. Now, let us briefly summarize what are the key benefits of running e-commerce microservices in confidential containers that leverage the power of confidential compute. One can see that clearly businesses can spend less on security because confidential containers by definition protect against a larger set of attacks. They also allow to reduce the expenses on compliances because by definition they are designed in such a way that, for example, user data is concealed and does not leak the containers. And most importantly, businesses can now spend less on marketing expenses because the insights through the analytics they get are much more precise and of higher quality than, say, anonymized or pseudonymized synthesized data. Finally, we're at the point where I want to show a short demonstration of running WordPress in confidential containers. I want to demonstrate how easily it is to just deploy them using standard Docker technology. And the way this demonstration goes is that we're gonna create an administration account and then see what happens if an insider attacker or a bad insider has access to the cloud and what kind of sensitive information he can see or not see. Let me show how easy it is to run confidential containers. We access through SSH an Azure Confidential Compute cloud, and we're now gonna deploy using a standard Docker Compose command 4 containers, 2 necessary for a standard WordPress environment and 2 for our confidential compute ready containers. So what we're now gonna do is we're gonna install a file watcher just in order to see what kind of changes happen within the containers. In the bottom left, we're gonna access the confidential container, and bottom right, the standard non-enclaved vanilla container. So the services are now running, and let's configure them. Yeah. On the left, we configure the Enclave version using Intel SGX technology. And on the right, we're going to configure the non-enclaved vanilla version of WordPress. Yeah, with the same password, same contact email address. And voila, now we're created an administration account in both versions. We see that during administration, log files have been created in both containers. And just in order to verify that the websites are running, this is WordPress running in confidential compute environment, and this is the vanilla WordPress running in standard environments. So now let's have a look what the log files leak, and let's start with the non-enclaved log file. We're going to search for a term containing the string contact, like in the contact email address. And we see, oh, the username and the hash of the password can immediately be looked up. Now let's do the same with the confidential container. Search for the same string. And it doesn't work. And the reason is, it's a confidential container, which by definition encrypts the memory. So no crucial information can be leaked, and looking into this log file, everything looks like garbage, which is an indication for a good probabilistic encryption algorithm. We're now going to do the same with the access log file, and the access log file typically leaks the information of users accessing the websites, most notably the IP address. And in the non-enclaved version, we readily can extract the IP addresses, and as mentioned before, IP addresses are considered as personal data and require the user to consent the storing or processing of this data. In the confidential container, on the other hand, no IP addresses is visible, simply because this container is memory encrypted and anonymizes the data. So this way, no personal data is stored. To conclude, confidential containers can be deployed like standard containers, but they come with some very cool superpower. And this superpower is useful for a lot of applications in order to shield data, algorithms, business use cases, and enables to move with much more trust and confidence to the cloud. That was a demo of WordPress running in a confidential compute environment. I hope you liked it. And if you want to experience how confidential compute technology can help your business, feel free to drop us a line. I'm Sebastian. Thanks for your time. And now I'm throwing back the ball back to Mike.
Thanks, Sebastian. Let's quickly discuss one more area where confidential computing is being applied, blockchain. Microsoft Azure Confidential Ledger is a new and highly secure service for managing sensitive data records. It runs exclusively on Intel SGX Enclaves, a heavily monitored and isolated runtime environment designed to keep data confidential and attacks at bay. Furthermore, Azure Confidential Ledger runs on a minimalistic trusted computing base, which ensures that no one, not even Microsoft, is above the ledger. As the name suggests, Azure Confidential Ledger utilizes the Azure Confidential Computing Platform and the Confidential Consortium Framework to provide a high-integrity solution that's tamper-protected and evident. One ledger spans across 3 or more identical instances, each of which run in dedicated, fully attested, hardware-backed enclaves. The ledger's integrity is maintained through a consensus-based blockchain. Now, Azure Confidential Ledger offers unique data integrity advantages, including immutability, tamper resistance, and append-only operations. And these features, designed to ensure that all the records are kept intact, are ideal when critical metadata records must not be modified, such as for regulatory compliance or archival purposes. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to check out our Ask the Expert session where experts from Intel, Microsoft, Decentric, and Enclave will answer your questions about Intel SGX, Azure Confidential Computing, and dive deeper into their confidential computing solutions. And visit our Intel partner page for more information and resources. Thanks, and I hope to see you there.